Welcome to the Pretty Sister podcast, where you are part of a community of women seeking to empower, encourage, uplift one another through friendship, shared experiences, and the power of sisterhood. I'm your host and the original Pretty Sister, Callie. Thank you for being here today, and welcome to our supportive community. I want you to know that you are valued, worthy, and truly beautiful. I'm so excited. Today, I have Johnny Covey here with me, who is an amazing person.
Thank you.
I had the privilege of meeting Johnny about 6 years ago, I think it was, in 2018. We met, and I was able to participate in a course of his, and it was life-changing for me. It was profound that I was able to learn his head-to-heart experience. And so Johnny was one of the first people that I wanted to invite onto this Pretty Sister podcast, because I know that the information that he has to share with you is invaluable and truly can help you to have what we're calling a Pretty Sister makeover, which you're going to learn all about this opportunity for you. But first, I am just so excited to have Johnny tell us more about how he got started and share with us your process. So it's called Head to Heart. And he has a book that's a best-selling book, and you might recognize his last name, Covey.
Yes.
He is a descendant. He's the nephew of Stephen R. Covey. So he comes from a family of writers and people who have great thoughts and have had transformations through that thought.
And that's where it started, right? It started for me as it started when I was a kid. We'd learned the 7 habits and, we're taught, okay, here's Stephen Covey. We raised on that. But it really started when I was 17, and I read Stephen Covey's book for myself. It wasn't my dad being like, 7 habits are great. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like that's Uncle Steve, and if you've ever met Stephen Covey, he's very like, obviously, Steve, he's like very, business focused and stuff, but he is fun and expressive and like playful. He's like a really character. So I'm like, okay, this is cool. But then I read the book myself and I was like, this is really good. This is deep. This like it changed my life. I'm like, wow, like I know him, but that's interesting. And like, so, but what was interesting at 17 at the time, I was so in my heart. I was completely willing to just be and express myself. I wasn't worried. What did people think about me? I went through that stage of I'm dumb and I'm ugly and no one's gonna ever like, that kids.
Thought process.
Yeah. And even younger than that, really beat my, something. And then I shifted past that, got to my heart, and then I was like, I could do anything. Well, I'm gonna do what Stephen did, right? Like he changed my life. Why not? I was so naive. 17 years old.
You think it's easy?
I'm like, why not? Stephen did it. That guy's goofy, crazy, fun. Like I can do it. Like I'm gonna do that. And so this started this journey. Little did I know, decades and decades of thinking through, working through. But what was interesting about that connection that I had with Stephen was I had this level of like, it's got to be something that has that kind of impact.
Yes.
Because like I've seen it done. He did it, and he's a human, like he's a normal person, and he focused and he created this. So with Head to Heart, I was like, okay, what is the root? Like even with all that I had amazing family. I grew up, all these different things, all these like principles around me. I still wouldn't do what I wanted to do. Like I'm still in my head in some ways. And
feeling tripped up, there's something holding you back from reaching that potential.
Yeah, totally. And what was interesting is at 17, I was like, you can do anything. And then I started getting more in my head. Like I started to be more focused on like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work. What is this? And, real life kind of came together, but I still had that vision. Okay, well, how do I do that? And that's how I started to say, how do I actually do that? And I had to figure out the tools or the framework to go from the head to the heart.
It's interesting that when we're younger, we're often more courageous. And maybe that has to do with part of the brain not being fully developed and whatnot. But we do. I remember being young and thinking, I can do anything and I can accomplish whatever. And you're just not as afraid to get out there and try. And then as life does go on, we sometimes, through having, I guess it's possibly because we have life experience and we have disappointments and we see that things might be harder as we have tried over and over again. Yeah. And so we tend to get more stuck.
Totally.
And we get more in our head and we're not living from our heart. And that's where it becomes even more important. And this is why it's so important I think for you to listen up and know that you're normal for having some of those hesitancies or thoughts.
You are normal.
Yes.
Whatever here, little commercial break here. Whatever you are experiencing, if you are in your head, if you're not in your head, like, please come. We need to figure out what, because we're all in our head. Like, I'm in my head. I'm sure I'll share some experience just recently where I got in my head. Totally normal. Nothing's wrong with you in your head. If you're in your head, you're in this back part of your brain that's protecting you. That's it. If there is real danger, use that head to survive and protect yourself. Survive, get out of that situation. But we stay in our head when there's no longer the situation. There might have been real danger, right? Someone might have been mean or abusive even. And we've had an experience, a real life experience. It was real. What they did was real, and what they did was hurtful and dangerous. So I need to protect. But when we live in this operating system of protection, we can't progress because our heart is all about progress.
So and that's important. This
head's not bad. Sometimes I talk about it as if it's like the head is bad. It's not. The head is great.
It's
we would die without, if our head wasn't there, we would go do something stupid, and we none of us would be here if we didn't have our head protected.
Yes. So we're uniquely designed for these protective mechanisms to serve us and to help us. It's just when we're using them improperly or when we're out of balance and we're thinking too much in our head, that's where we get tripped up and stuck.
Totally.
So yes, you're perfect just the way you are. Rest assured. And we're going to help you to get into your heart. So let's talk about that a little more.
So here's the key. So if you're in your head, which you got to be, we're all in our head. Protecting, to get into our heart, it's all about progress. So basic, just remember this. And if I'm in my head, it's about protection. If I need to be protected, awesome. If not, I want to progress from my heart. Think of it this way. If the body is amazing at this. We have our 5 senses, and they protect us and they progress us. So if I drink milk that's gone bad, my body, all 5 senses will protect me. Say, do not drink this milk. It's rotten milk, right? It looks chunky.
Yes.
It smells terrible. It tastes terrible. Like, it feels like, all 5 senses will say, do not drink this. This is disgusting.
I love that you give this example because, gross. Of course, we're not going to do that. But what's crazy is we do stuff like that all the time. That's just maybe not as recognizable. We do sabotaging behaviors, or we allow thought processes to run through our head that are negative, that are impacting us, not for the good. And we let those sit and run. But when you associate that with the rotten milk, which you will now that you've heard
you'll hopefully start to recognize when you have a thought that is unhealthy, just like the milk I said. It's vile, it's disgusting. It could be slightly bad, like, I can't tell if this milk is good or bad. Like, we have thoughts like that. And then there's thoughts that are vile, disgusting. It's like, this is rotten. This is not cottage cheese. This is disgusting milk, right? And when we have thoughts like that, our conscience will protect us through our feelings. That feeling is saying unhealthy. Choose something different. Choose your new thought. Here's the problem. Here is the root of all of this, and which is like, it's so interesting to me, like how long it's taken me to figure this out, and even how sometimes I don't realize this. That painful feeling is not saying that thought is true. It's saying it's vile, disgusting, it's unhealthy. Stop it. That's it.
Because anytime we're thinking negative about ourselves, if you're thinking that you're not pretty, if you're thinking you're not worthy, if you're thinking you're not good enough, those are against our true nature. And so we're going to have bad feelings about that. That's when you feel sad. That's when you feel, that you can't move forward, or you don't know what to do, or feel confusion. And we interpret that in a false way as that we're doing something wrong, or that something's not right, when actually it's just our thoughts are thoughts, because we're going contrary to your divine nature. When you're not feeling good about yourself, it's disrespectful. And you're going to
we're going to get to that, because think of it this way. So every time I drink bad milk, I spit it out and say, that milk is bad. I have never drinking milk that's gone bad. We actually just, like a day ago, had milk that just was a little bit expired. My wife called and said, pour out the milk. The kids, driving to school, the milk is bad. I look, I'm like, oh, it expires today. I'm surprised, but it was expired.
My kids have the habit. I don't know if your kids do this, but they pull the milk out of the carton, and before they pour, they smell. Like, it's just sort of like,
oh, dude, that's smart. That's smart. That's smart. But I don't.
Maybe it's because I'm not going to the store often. Like,
we go through a lot of milk. So, but I've never in my life had that drink of milk and thought, something's wrong with me. Like, I don't know what's happening. Like, I can't drink milk anymore. I must be broken. My body is messed up. No, I say disgusting. Yes. That milk is disgusting. If you look at Pretty Sisters, if you look in the mirror and have a thought of, or oh, I'm so ugly, or I look fat, or oh, this doesn't look good, that is rotten milk. It's disgusting. It will taste and it will feel, you will feel this, it will feel bad every time. That feeling is not saying it's true. It's not saying, yes, this is true. You are ugly and everybody doesn't like you. It's saying that thought is horrible. That's it.
And you're not bad for having that feeling. Let's make that clear. Your feelings are valid. Your feelings are your feelings. And so you need to feel them. You need to process them. They're clues. They're giving you information. And the key is getting fast and quick at recognizing that feeling and letting it go.
Yeah.
You know, and understanding what to do with it, which is what you're going to teach us.
Yeah, because the word I love to use is it's a message. Your feelings are a message letting you know, hey, this is unhealthy. Protect yourself from this. Or, hey, progress. This is like if you have a thought, you look in the mirror and say, here we go. You could even have the thought from your heart, like, ooh, I don't like how I look right now. But from your heart is very different than, ooh, I look this, I discuss, whatever. Like, there's a difference. It doesn't, and being in your heart is not like, I love how I look amazing. No, you from your heart can be like, I don't feel great about how I look right now.
And you might need to change up your outfit.
Yeah.
Come on, girls, we do it. Sometimes we need to.
And it's okay. So the thought, it's not this like, oh, I got to be all fake and, no, but this. The key, if you can make this one shift in this whole conversation is this. If I have a thought that's unhealthy, it's not going to feel good. That feeling is telling me to change my thought. That's it. This is an unhealthy thought, change my thought. And then what will happen is if I don't change that thought, it doesn't feel good. And what do? I don't feel pretty. I don't feel like myself. I don't feel all those things. So I'm in my head protecting throughout the day. Versus going into our heart and looking at our thoughts so we feel something different and do something different.
Yeah.
And so that's this whole process is recognizing I have been misunderstanding my whole life what I have been experiencing. Experiences are what I think, what I feel, and what I do. I have an experience. I think it means this. So I feel this way and I do this. And we all have, like we talked about growing up, we all have life experiences growing up where we have an experience, we think it means something, we feel something, we do something. And I actually want to share a little example. I was on the way over here, speaking of someone who like being in our heart. So I've got two little girls who, the one is 9 and one is 7. And they're just best friends. And then they're the sweetest, just
adorable,
full of heart, do I look great? Yeah, I look great. Like, they're not like, they're just, they're pretty little sisters. they, and they have two different complete body types. They one has red hair, one has blonde. They're so different. And do they get in their head? Yes. But then they work through it. But here's this experience that happened, is last night, one of them got super glue stuck to their fingers. So she was very emotional. Yeah. She was like, this is never, I'm stuck forever, like a lot of pain. And she brought up this experience that because she was feeling that emotion, she brought up all these emotions she's feeling deeply. Mm-hmm. So she turns to me and says, Dad, like I feel like you don't love me. I'm like,
because of the super glue.
I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah, like sometimes you're so mean to me. I'm like, oh, really? Like, I'm like, what am I? Like, I'm mean to you. What do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? But she had this experience, and at first I thought, oh, this is imaginary. At first I thought it was not real. But she's like, when you were coaching basketball and you were in coach mode, and you said this, and you were mean to me, and I'm like, oh, and I thought, oh, this is all made up, right? Like. How do like
where's this even coming from?
Where's this coming from? But then here's what I'm going to tell you. Here's the important thing is we have experiences. We might not even remember them. We might not even think they're real, but they're deep. And unless we understand, oh, this is what I was thinking, feeling, and doing, and express them and get them out, we can't work through them. So I said, I'm sorry. And she's like, I forgive you. Of course. I'm like, okay, it's wonderful. She finally got her fingers unstuck to feel and express those feelings.
Not shut it down.
Not shut it down.
We do that sometimes,
totally.
Especially like, parents. Even if we,
this isn't even real. I mean, I'm not yelling at you. I'm like,
that didn't happen, and
I don't,
dismiss it, or we don't take the time to go through that, because this can be time consuming. Although I will say one of the things I love about your process is you've nailed it to where it can be quick.
You can go through
deep and you can spend time, but you can also in 5 minutes, couple minutes, you can just go through that.
We went through the quick version there, and I didn't even talk to her because, went off to school. But what I realized is I'm sure what was happening, I was coaching my son, and this is, non-competitive basketball. This is junior jazz, right? And she probably was like, Dad, I need this or whatever. And I'm like, hey, I'm coaching right now.
Yeah, this isn't the time.
It was that subtle. I'm sure I wasn't like, like these were like non-important games. I'm not like, shut up, children. Like I'm coaching this team. I know half of them can't even shoot, but no, like I'm sure that, but I've said, hey, I'm coaching, like
not right now.
Like not right now. And for her, she has held on to that. So I'm so grateful that she could express that. And later today, I'm going to really help her process that and recognize, okay, like what more do we need to talk about? But what happens in life, if you're wondering, why do I have this thought about myself? And I'm focusing a lot, obviously, because it's the Pretty Sisters podcast. So I'm going to talk about, the specifically with how we look and some of those things,
how we think about
ourselves and our image. But this could have started for you if you have thoughts about yourself and your body or how you look or how you present yourself that are unhealthy. They might have started when you were Hazel's age. She was probably 8 at the time, or younger, and you have one thought, it doesn't feel good, and you think it must be true, right?
And what's sad is we can hold on to those from our childhood for long,
forever,
until you uncover that and so get into that subconscious patterning and change your thoughts.
Totally.
But you can do easily. That's the good news.
That's the good news.
If you've been thinking incorrectly and not thinking that you're a pretty sister, because you are, but if you haven't had that thought process, you can change that, and you're going to learn how to do that with Johnny.
We're going to go through. They're going to know how, because the key is this. And I'm using this example because I tell Sweet Hazel every day, like I feel so lucky to have these 2 at the end. They're so sweet. They're just like, I just love them so much.
You have a lot of kids.
Yeah, I have 8 kids. So I have 8 kids.
You've got a lot of experience.
I got a lot of experience. But these 2, it's so fun to have these 2 girls at the end. I love them so much. I'm like so sad because right now I love you. And they're just like, yeah, they just love it. And I'm like, I don't have much time until they're like, I don't know. A little much, Dad. Like, I know you love me, but please. I always say to them, anyways, I could go off, but I just love them so much, and I only have so much time. But it's interesting with all that. She said to me, sometimes I think you don't love me.
It's amazing. It's amazing that
you don't think I love you. I tell you every day, to the point where like, I always say this. I say, guess what? They're like, I know you love me, and it's this little back and forth. But it's like with all that, still at some level, she's like, sometimes I don't think you love me. And she was in a very emotional moment. But I'm so grateful that she can work through that. I know how to work through it. And the whole key to this process is when you are in your head, when you have an experience, feel your emotions. It is a message. Receive the message. Feel the message. Painful emotions. You feel them. There's pain there. They're not bad emotions. Sadness is not bad. If something really hard happens to you, you should feel sad.
Right.
If
we want to feel real.
If we didn't, we'd be just like, oh, yeah, something bad happened to you. Why would I? No, I feel sad about it. It's to feel the range of emotions. But the problem is when you feel an emotion and you don't have the ability to change your thought, then it's on repeat.
You don't want to get stuck there.
Yeah, it's the milk example. You're drinking that milk every day and you're not getting out of it. So it's like,
it's almost like we have this tendency to want to punish ourselves.
Right.
People will do that and just want to feel it because maybe it's something big that happened and they feel like, oh, I've got it. This is hard and heavy, so I'm going to have to feel this for a long time. But we don't actually have to feel it or stay stuck for a long time because. And this is important to me. I want to experience happiness and joyfulness, and I want you to as well. And then when we stay stuck in those emotions, it's totally destroying your happiness. And it's prolonging that pain or prolonging that challenge, and you're not getting out of it and learning what you need to learn and kind of grabbing that silver lining that's always in every challenge.
Yeah.
You can grab that and you can move forward and you can be happier, stronger, better. So we don't have to stay stuck. So remember that you are worth having joy and happiness. You want to protect it. And this is a tool set that's going to help you to protect that.
Yeah, I love a couple of things you said is basically, if we learn the lesson, learn the lesson, move on. It can be done.
Yeah.
It could be something that happened when we're a small child. And through this process, you can recognize between your brain and your conscience, you can go back and you will remember things you're like, oh, I had no idea I was in my head about that. I had no idea I was holding on. You'll just be led to it. The whole key to this whole process is not me, it's not Callie, it's you and your conscience. Your conscience will be your guide. Your mentor is your conscience. The framework, the tool that you're going to have going through this process, the formula of how to do it, like you need to understand it, but your conscience is what heals us. Mm-hmm. Our body heals us physically. When I get hurt, my body's going to heal itself unless there's some crazy thing or deficiencies, but our conscience will heal us mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It will, if we understand how to let it do it, but we have to let it do it. So
one thing that I'm often pointing out to my kids is when they helping them to understand a thought versus fact. Because we go through life and we experience things, and things are happening to us. People are saying things, and some of it's factual and actually happened, and some of it is just a thought that we're having, kind of based on our perception or our interpretation of what happened.
Yeah.
And it's been really useful for me to help them to understand the difference between that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that might be a little bit of a different language in which I'm saying that to them, but I think that fits in perfectly to what you're doing, because you're taking a second to really ponder and think of through, identify the thought.
Yes.
And,
what is
and
the
in
thought?
that process, you can kind of see, oh, that thought is really different than what's actually happening, or the facts, the situation going around. And it's helpful to separate that, because you may not be able to choose what's happening. And often we can't, especially when other people are involved.
Yeah.
But you always get to choose your thoughts about what's happening.
Yeah.
And that's where separating fact from fiction, fact from our thoughts, really becomes helpful. And it takes just the time to sit and ponder and think that through so that we can choose a more helpful thought.
Yeah.
Because that's completely within our power to do so. And that's what I think is so empowering to us, is that we get to design and create our experiences we're having in life when we take the time to feel empowered by choosing our thoughts and changing our thoughts.
Totally. And I want to point out, I think exactly what you said is perfect, because we get to choose. Mm-hmm. But I do want to point this out. If you're like, yeah, I know that, I've done the podcast and listened to personal development, but I still don't do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know I shouldn't tell myself I'm not beautiful and ugly, or I can't do this. It's that's so hard to do it, because you have a lifetime of real experiences that you haven't understood. So if you're like, well, yeah, I know I can choose and all that stuff. The difference is when you recognize that these feelings that I'm having, these emotions, I have broken, and we're going to talk, this is the next thing we got to really talk about, is these 3 commitments to my conscience. When I'm not aligned with my conscience, that painful, like there's a painful feeling telling me to change. So I am aligned with my conscience. So even if you have been trying and you're doing affirmations, all these things, it's like, it's still not, I haven't been able to shift. I absolutely believe going through this process, you'll understand, okay, I've kind of understood it, but there's I just need to go through this specifically this way so that I can, I'm in my head. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm not broken. This thought, then I feel this, then I do this. If I was in my heart, I would think this, feel this, do this. So you can do this. So if you're feeling like, I know I can choose, and I know I need to arrange my thoughts, or even if you had, like, going back to this example, if with the Hazel example, let's say I really did yell at her, Hazel, get out of here, right? Like, there are real experiences where people are really mean to us and do terrible things to us.
As a mother, I will admit, I have yelled at my kids. Right. I've had moments of getting impatient. In fact, it's a joke, because I'll tend to start clapping, like if I'm really mad, because I don't want to hit anyone. But I'll have like this energy that I have to express. And also I'll want to get their attention. This was more specifically when they're little. So I would just be like, they're like, okay, Mom, stop. You gotta stop.
No middle name. It's when she claps. So whether you've had a perceived experience or real experience, you might have really been hurt or been had abusive experiences. Like those are all real. We get to choose if we understand what the message comes from. Yes. And the key is recognizing, which is the next thing we really need to get clear on, which is these 3 commitments. So when we keep these 3 commitments, we feel worthy and accepted. When we break them, we feel wrong and alone. Now, it doesn't matter if we break them because we make a poor choice, or if somebody does something to us and then they make a poor choice. They do something horrible to us and then we get into our head. Either way, the key is that we get to choose if we keep these or not. And if you start the whole thing that we're talking about right now, it all comes back to these 3 commitments. When you keep them, feel worthy and accepted. When I don't, I feel wrong and alone. So the first commitment is to be respectful to ourselves and to others. Now, when I'm showing respect to myself and other people, I'm saying I'm of worth. Mm-hmm. You're of worth. If you do not feel worthy, you look in the mirror or any area of your life, you do not feel worthy or of worth, it's because you have thoughts that are not respectful about yourself or other people. That's it.
I think this is so important and so valuable. When I learned this years ago, this is something that is so easy to understand and to teach. So I've taught this to my daughters and my kids. Because if you are thinking that you're not pretty, that's disrespectful. Yeah. Because you are. Any thoughts that are negative about yourself, if you're thinking that you are worthless, if you're thinking you can't do something, that's disrespectful, and stop it. Yeah. I mean, you just have to stop it. And then you've got to shift your thoughts and you're breaking the commitments. It's such a cool, as soon as you recognize that, oh yeah, that makes sense. So I should do that. And then I love the word that you put, it's a commitment that you need to keep, a commitment you need to make to yourself to think that way. And then I think you moms listening, you're modeling your behavior to your children. Mm. So if you're not keeping these commitments, you can't, if you're not thinking positively about yourself, if you're not loving yourself, how can you expect your children to? And I think we get caught up in that. Yeah. Moms will be frustrated that their child's not doing well. Well, it really comes back to taking a look at yourself and what are you thinking, and are you keeping this commitment of being respectful to yourself?
Yeah, I love that. And so let me give you an example, or kind of bring this to home. If I just gave you an example of Hazel, I want you to just imagine this sweet little blonde hair, just full of life, just she's just the sweetest, outgoing. She's like, if you were to see her, she'd be like, hi, hey, what's up? Hey, how you doing? Like that Hazel, she's just like the spunky, cute sweetheart, right? When you look in the mirror, if you were to get down on eye level with Hazel and say those same things to her, it wouldn't feel good. It's disrespectful. It doesn't matter if you're Hazel's age or your age. When you tell yourself, I can't this, I'm not, you look terrible, or what are people going to think? It doesn't feel good because it's disrespectful. Period. The end. It doesn't matter what age you are. You would never do it to Hazel. You would never be like, you don't look good. I don't know. I don't like how you look today. No, you wouldn't say that. No, you might be like, Hazel, that doesn't match. Let's pick a different outfit. We do that all the time. It's not going to work. That doesn't match. Right. Or, she's like, what about this crazy, I'm like, and sometimes I'm like, go for it. Right. You want to wear this crazy hairdo. You want to do this crazy, she creates stuff, and I'm like, go for it. Right. Because
one of my daughters used to come up with the craziest outfits. And we called them her Punky Brewster outfits. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah. Totally.
This funny show years ago. And she would think she looked amazing. She would just put her whole ensemble together, totally not matching, things in her hair, crazy stuff. And she'd come out ready for school thinking, top notch, she's ready to go. And I didn't have the heart to just, sometimes if necessary, I would correct things. But literally, I remember a few times I snapped a pic and I would send it to my girlfriend. Look how Sophia's going to school. And we got the biggest kick out of it because she thought she looked great. And she just would rock those outfits, and I would let her because I didn't want to dampen any of that confidence. I mean, it was just oozing from her. And so I was like, this is great.
Yeah, love it. You're beautiful. Right? So if you wouldn't say it to Hazel, or think of someone you would know in your life, 6, 7, 8 years, if you wouldn't say it to them, don't say it to yourself. It's disrespectful. Once again,
and don't think it.
If you think it about yourself, don't say it about yourself. When I say even say it about yourself, if you say it in your mind, it's verb. It doesn't matter. If you even just went, oh, I don't, or, oh, look at my, look how I look, or, oh, my arms, or whatever. I don't look, whatever. It's like that you're not being respectful to your body.
Right.
Like, your body's incredible. And it doesn't mean like, oh, yes, you're a model and you need, I'm not saying that, like, right. You can have the confidence of your daughter. I love that if you do, right. You just have that, but it doesn't mean you have to have that. You can just be respectful to yourself. And then you will feel of worth. If you don't feel of worth, you can't. You just need to change how you're thinking and start being respectful. So.
Well, I love that because you're not putting the responsibility on somebody else.
Yeah.
You get to feel completely empowered to feel worthy. In fact, it is your job to feel worthy. It's not the job of the people around you to make you feel that way. And yes, your environment matters.
Oh,
and so that's a whole other conversation we could have about putting yourself in the right environments that are supportive to the way that you want to feel. But at the end of the day, you get to choose. And that's what I love about this.
Yeah.
All right. So what's commitment number 2?
Number 2 is to be your best and accept your best. So being your best. So the first commitment is it's very obvious when you're being disrespectful. Being your best is usually a little bit more subtle. Like being your best, it's that little, your conscience will be like, there's more, right? I know you just changed this. I know you're like, there's a little bit more. Hey, like it's like that coach who's pushing you. It's not because you're terrible. It's like, no, you're killing it, but here's the next level. Yeah. But accepting your best. This goes along with, if you look in the mirror and you're like, it's like, I'm not accepting where I'm at. I'm not accepting my body where it's at. If you're like, I'm overweight, great. This is where I'm at right now. This is where I'm at.
It doesn't mean you can't do something and you might want to change, but you've got to accept where you are in the moment, or you're never going to even feel like wanting to make a positive change.
And which is interesting because we think, oh, if I just tell myself enough that I'm ugly or that I can't do this or whatever, it's like, well, then no. When I feel terrible, what do I want? I know. I want to eat. I want to eat more food. I don't want to, whatever. So, and I don't want to. This isn't only about our bodies, but we're focusing on that a little bit here. But here's what I'm going to suggest. So these 2 commitments are key to feel first worthy and accepted. Right? When we accept ourselves and others, we feel accepted. Even if nobody else is accepting us, you don't feel accepted by your family, friends, but I accept myself. I feel accepted.
That's what you need. The other thing I love that you taught me before about the being your best and accepting your best is you said we accept others' best as well, right? And that has helped me so much because sometimes people do things that offend you or that aren't exactly what you want to be experiencing. But if you can look at them and think, okay, this is their best.
Yeah.
And accept their best. Like maybe they don't know better. Maybe this is all the training that they've had to know what to do or to say in a situation, and they're giving and doing their best, then that's helpful to move forward.
Yeah.
When you're accepting your best, okay, I've done my best and they're doing their best. Okay. Yeah. It's really helpful.
I'm glad you brought that up because here's the key. Our best sometimes is terrible, and people around you, their best is like terrible. It's terrible. Like it's not good. Mm-hmm. Like their best is horrible. Their best is like they're angry, they're frustrated, they're unkind. Like where they're at, like is not great. It's not like, oh, that's okay, they get a pass. No, you're just like, I accept where you're at, and it's terrible and it's abusive, so I'm not going to be hanging out with you. Right. Like sometimes we're like, oh, I have to be with them, and like because we're not accepting their best, we actually like keep being abused by them. Versus like, I accept this is where you're at, and I'm gonna be respectful to myself and no longer be around it. I'm going to accept my best, and even though my best might not be good in this area, and I'm gonna move away.
And I love that you said that because we are not telling you that you need to stay in abusive or dysfunctional situations and that and accept people's best in those situations. That's not what it is.
Yeah, accept their best and you get out of there. Like, and it's okay. This is one of those things that takes a minute to fully really get. Same with respect. It seems so obvious, but it's like we are so used to being disrespectful to ourselves and others that we don't think it's disrespectful. most people I tell this, I remember even in the group we were at, they're like, I mean, we're like all these powerful women, right? No one's like, it's not like, hey, this is a super disrespectful group of women. It's like, no, all of you are being disrespectful. Everyone's like, what? What do you mean? Like, we're like kind, compassionate, loving, powerful women. Like, no, all of you are being very disrespectful. And if you realize and are okay with that, like, oh, I am, then you can choose something different. All of you aren't accepting the best of people. If you accept the best of somebody, they can't hurt you because you're like, oh, that's where they're at. Right.
Right.
When Hazel can't do something, or when she's crying and feeling, I'm not like, you should be way more emotionally mature. You know, it's just super glue. I'm not mad at her. Her best is like, my fingers are never coming apart. Like like my life and it's it, you know, like that's where she's at. Mm-hmm. She's 9. That makes complete sense. That's where she's at.
Well, and this is such an important concept because we don't know what's going on in other people's lives. And we would be good to just assume that everybody's having the worst day or their worst challenge because 90% of the time they are.
Yeah.
And when we go around giving that grace, giving that understanding to others, it helps us. Well, again, it's a formula. If we're not accepting our best, we're not accepting others' best. Like if we want that grace given to us, we have to do it with other people. And so having that type of empathy, and it may not come natural to you. I mean, some people are blessed with more, abilities to do this than others. And sometimes it takes practice, but just having that understanding that, oh, I do need to accept their best.
Yeah.
It allows others to do that to you.
It's
a two-way street.
And if you accept others, then you start to accept
yourself. And you accept yourself. But if you're not doing that, then you're always feeling not good enough. You're always feeling not worthy. You're always going to be caught up in that angst if you can't learn this commitment and practice it.
So if you don't feel worthy, be respectful. If you don't feel good enough, accept your best. Mm-hmm. If you don't feel accepted. And
there's one more commitment.
Yes. One last thing I'll point out with the Hazel example, which is this. It made perfect sense for her to say, I don't think you love me, because she had that experience, and it didn't matter if it's real or imagined or I yelled at it. It doesn't matter. It was real. So when we're going back to, if you understood where people were experiencing, if you understand what happened to them in their life, and you might be like, they had the perfect life, the perfect family, but how they experience it, how they interpret it, how they, it doesn't matter. Same family, it's like, how's that, we're all different. If you understood their experiences, you'd be like, of course they're cranky. Of course they're mean. Of course they're frustrated, because if you understand their experiences. Now,
and we don't know everybody's experiences, which is why we have to follow this commitment, because we aren't privy to the way everyone interpreted things. We could judge and say, oh, they have to have this perfect life, but do we know that?
That's what I did with Hazel. I'm like, Hazel, aren't you kidding me? I adore you. I'm like, I just praise you with love. And then Buzz like, oh, so we recognize people have had experiences, and doesn't matter if it's because they chose it or something happened to them, and this is the path they've gone. And the third commitment gives us the ability to have a new experience, which is the third commitment is to be present. Being present to our experience. Our experience is what we think, what we feel, and then what we do. And if we are present to that, our experience, what we think, feel, do, we can choose to align with our conscience. So the third commitment is like, I broke the first. Oh, I'm not on the screen. I broke the first 2. Now I go to the third commitment, and that says, hey, you broke those first 2. Let's get present. So it's like we in my family, we say it's the try again. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, got to try again. That's so right. I'm going to get present. And the way we do that is recognize, okay, I'm in my head. Nothing is wrong with me. I'm not broken. I just received a message from my conscience telling me that I have thoughts that are unhealthy. So I'm going to change those. I'm going to have a new experience by going from my head to my heart. Mm-hmm. That's it. Like that's the process. And we can do it over and over. And we want to give you an example, like a quick one. I've been giving kind of roundabout ones, but we want to give some examples of it. And if you do want to see, I did like 42 of these because I'm like, I just need to do, I call them a snapshot. Mm-hmm. And so at Choose to Rebel, got a rebel lion here. That choose to rebel any social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all those, TikTok. You can go and there's 42 examples of in your head, and I take that snapshot.
Because Johnny's all about sharing and getting this process out to the world, these tool sets, because it's so important for you to understand how to do this. And so he's made it available.
Go through those snapshots. Yes. Yeah, go through, and you can just hear me being like, are you are you terrified? And then you can hear 3 minutes of like, oh, this is how you hear it. And then we're going to do one here.
Yes.
So I'm going to, I'll kind of, Callie's been doing the process and mentoring herself, which is cool because my whole job is to be like, I'm going to show you how to do it, but then this is your process, right? It's not like mine. It's like, hey, this is like a tool, a framework that now it's yours, right? And you've been using it, but we're gonna, I'm kind of giving you the Hazel example, but we're gonna take you through one.
Yeah, I've absolutely been using this in my life and with my children. I want to say real quick before we jump into doing that, that with this third commitment of being present, this, you guys, has been one of my favorite things because I often feel like we get trapped in our past and in our future, worrying about things.
Yes.
So if you're stuck thinking that you can't do something because of an experience that happened in the past, or if you have fears because you tried it before and something didn't happen, this whole concept of committing to be present helps you to realize, oh, wait, I'm thinking that because of something that happened in the past, and that's not true right now. Or women do this, especially worry about the future. You might be worried about your kids and what they're going to do, and worried about that trip, and worried. Yeah. I mean, it's endless, the amount of worrying that I think people and women can do. And when you start to recognize that that's all in the future, and unless there's something you can do presently about it, it's not worth worrying about. You just need to let that go. And that's part of getting present and staying committed to being present, is you're just working in the here and now. And when you learn to do that, and when you learn to recognize, to keep that commitment, it's powerful, because you can drop all that worry, you can drop all that regret from the past, and you can just live in the moment. And that is where life is happening, you guys. But the happy life is made up of all of the moments in the present that you are choosing consciously. And that is a beautiful thing, because you have a lot of power over those choices.
That was amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I just want to share with everyone what I'm experiencing doing this podcast. It's been 6 years since we've connected. So my experience right now from my heart is I'm thinking, dang, she's like,
I was a good student, right?
You're a good student. Anyways, I just want to share my experience, which is what I'm thinking is she's been doing this and she's explaining, I'm explaining this and she's taking it, and that feels amazing. So thank you.
Well, wonderful teacher is what it really comes down to. You really taught me well, and you've been being mentored
yourself. That's the key. We haven't talked for 6 years. I'm like, wow, that's a great way to explain being present. You've taken it and you explain it your own way. You've dived in, and you're yeah, of course, present, previous, all that stuff. But I don't even remember that I talked about that, or you just know that's the path. You've just been applying it, right?
Right.
It doesn't even matter if I did talk about it or not. It's so that's what's cool about this process. When you make it your own, it's you've been mentored and being taught, and the key is you have a tool or framework, which is as simple as these 3 commitments, and then the rest makes sense. You need to understand these key points, this conscience and message and all that stuff. So awesome. Anyways, that was cool. Thank you for sharing that. Okay,
so let's do it. Things in store for you that I'm so excited about. So Johnny is willing to share with us this process in a Pretty Sister Makeover format for all of us Pretty Sisters to participate in. And we are going to be doing that in next month. We're going to get the times and whatnot ironed out, but we recognize that this takes some time. In fact, as you coach people, and you guys, he coaches in corporate settings. He's very sought after. He has a best-selling book. This is amazing that he's willing to do this for us. And I'm so grateful. Grateful and so excited for you guys.
And the reason is because you've been using it. And when I heard about Callie's, he's like, oh yeah. And I didn't know how much you're using. I don't know, whatever. You're I hope it was helpful.
Yes.
But I'm yeah, let's do something. Let's do something together. Yes. Let's collaborate. This is cool. You've been using this. How do we give this ability to people where you don't have to sign up for an expensive group that's going to cost all, we want to give you this tool.
Yes.
And the ability to experience it for yourself.
And we want you to have a transformation. And I want you to really recognize your worth. And I want you to understand who you are. And I want you to love who you are. And I want you to feel like a pretty sister. And this is something that I've had the gift of feeling my entire life. And I've had the privilege of teaching and training my children to grow up with these thoughts. And then I've had the experience of learning from Johnny and even amping it up with these tools. And I want this for you, and I want to shortcut your, as we're gathering our tribe of pretty sisters and growing this group of sisterhood, I want you to, this to me is like a quick catch up, right? We're going to do this makeover. You're going to go deep. And for 6 weeks, you're going to come and we're going to practice these commitments together. We're going to learn them. We're going to practice them. We're going to practice doing the snapshots that he does so that you can really start to program yourself with these tools and techniques and then learn them for your kids, because I think it's powerful and I'm so excited for you. So we're going to invite you to join with us and do that. And it's going to be, it's free for you. This is a gift. This is kind of my relaunching a Pretty Sisters gift and wanting to help you to really embrace and feel and think like a pretty sister. And Johnny's going to help you to do that because we need his tools and his skill set so that you can learn this. Now, we're going to launch this in the future, coming up soon, and you're going to learn and have the opportunity to jump in on all of that. But we decided to get you started and just to show you what you're going to learn and what you're going to be practicing. Johnny's going to do it with me.
Okay,
right? So
perfect.
We're going to do it here for
we're
you.
We're going to do like a quick, and this will be the quick version. And
it's a little mini example.
Because both Callie and I have gone through this process where, I'm in my head. You go through the snapshot and think, feel, do head, think, feel, do heart. You start what I call pen pondering, where you just start writing and you get out all the head, feel the head emotions, feel all the head. I'm angry. They're the words. Then you go to your heart. And if you just start feeling your emotions, eventually, if you keep going, you go to the heart side. And your conscience will lead you to, wait, where is this coming from? Oh, it's when I was a kid. You can go through this. We've both done that. We're going to just do a snapshot example. I just want to say one more thing about the 6 weeks is just a way for you to understand it. It's not just information. It's an experience. Experience is what we think, feel, and do. So think of it as a Pretty Sister makeover. But really what you're making over is going from anywhere you feel wrong and alone to worthy and accepted. That's the most important makeover you could ever have. If you don't change how you look at all, but you change how you think and how you feel, and you feel worthy and accepted, like you will feel pretty.
And thank you for saying that. It is not how you look on the outside.
Yeah.
That is not what this is about. It's how you feel about yourself.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we're using the word makeover because we're just from the inside out.
It's an inside out makeover. It's not
makeover experience. It's not from the outside in. There's things we can do and it's fun to look pretty, but you will never feel pretty unless we do this inside job.
Yeah.
And that's what this is all about.
Worthy and accepted.
The inside of feeling loved and worthy and accepted. I love those feelings. I love feeling that way. And I will tell you, I don't always feel that way. Nobody does. And this is a constant process of loving ourselves enough to do the work to help us work through those emotions and feelings and to learn the skill set to recognize our emotions as the clues so that we can get back into this feeling of feeling worthy and loved. It's not a gift that anybody, we all have propensities to feel like better than others. Like I said, I have this daughter that exudes confidence, but she doesn't always feel.
Totally.
Nobody does. Nobody always feels their best.
Yeah.
And so, again, we can make the commitments, we break them, and we remake them.
Yeah.
And that's what you do over and over. And you have down days and, sad days and whatnot. So I'm going to be vulnerable.
Yes.
And I'm going to let him take me through this process quickly. And I'm going to share what comes up.
Okay.
And we're going to be real.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. We're sisters, right?
Okay. So, Callie.
Yes.
What are you experiencing from your head? Like, what's an experience where you are in your head protecting, where you have a feeling that's telling you, hey, you should change here? What's an experience that you've had recently, right now, wherever you want to go?
Well, if I'm being honest, a repetitive experience that I've had, a challenge that I get in my head about is launching Pretty Sisters, relaunching this.
Right.
I get stuck. I will have feelings of.
Let's go to first your thoughts. So let me break down. I'm going to do this very specific. I'm going to take through the actual snapshot language. I'm going to even read it so I do it right. So when you rock through this, and it'll cover everything we've talked about. So not being respectful and or my best, I choose to think. So what are you thinking? Once again, and this is key. these are disrespectful thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, I'm a loser, nobody's gonna, it doesn't have to be that. It's just like, oh, I don't know, should I do, like, that can be, or not accepting your best and just taking the next step. It's the subtle stuff. It doesn't have to be, this is going to be an utter failure. It could, but that doesn't have to be that extreme. So not being respectful and or your best. I choose to think. What are some of the thoughts?
I think I'll think I can't. Well,
Okay, here's what's awesome. Callie's actually going through the real process, right?
Okay. I want to say.
And you guys, and not your. So hold on, Callie, is your head saying, "Well, I don't want to say that because that makes me look like I'm right."
Yeah.
Right. Isn't this cool?
It is. It's cool. I'll think. I think it's normal to think, well, what will people think of me?
Yeah.
Because I don't know how to do this completely. I don't know how to share a lifetime of feelings with everybody.
Yeah.
I don't want to come across know-it-all.
So that's a thought, right? What if they think I'm a know-it-all?
Yeah. Versus I actually just want to serve and have emotions coming in.
Yeah.
So I'll have a hard time thinking that I have the right to speak up, I guess. I think is what it comes down to. Like, what am I going to say that is worth listening to?
Yeah. And what are you feeling right now?
Well, you can hear I've got emotion. I'm feeling, it's probably a little bit scared. And I guess it feels unworthy. It feels that if I'm thinking that I don't have the right to say something, or who's going to listen?
Yeah.
What are they going to think? That feels not good enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when you think and feel that, what do you do when you stay in your head?
I don't do it. Then I think, well, I'd rather play with my kids. I guess that's another thought that comes up. I get overwhelmed at the idea of, well, if I start a podcast, if I start this, then I've got to finish it. And there's work involved, and then it can feel overwhelming. And then I've got to be consistent, and consistency is in my bottom skill set of my, like, the strength finders,
Yeah.
And so I don't want to be held to a pattern of, showing up.
Totally.
It's like I just want to be selfish and just play with my kids and travel or do whatever it is that doesn't involve having to serve. But I guess I feel compelled to share and to serve.
Yeah,
how you feel compelled.
Your heart. This is the thing. Our head is saying one thing. Our heart is saying one thing. Right? It's both. Right? Our head, control and comfort. Control. If I don't put myself out there, if I don't say all these things, then people won't think this of me, and they won't think I'm this, or all that stuff, right?
Or they won't expect.
They won't expect me. Yeah, right.
Sometimes they don't want to show up.
And then the comfort, right? Oh, that's out of my comfort zone. Yeah. Then I have to take care of these people, and all those.
Well, and I didn't grow up in the generation of being online, so the idea of being on Instagram and having to post and having to share my life, it's like, oh my gosh, that's the last thing I want to do in the world is to expose myself, and to that degree. Yet that is how the current format of sharing and reaching people is happening through that format, and young people are good at it, and I'm not. And who likes doing something they're not good at?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I can trust, and I'm trusting that I'll learn, and I can get help.
Totally.
And that's what I'm doing, is I'm getting help.
Yeah.
But it's scary.
Totally.
It's totally scary to think, well, I'm going to go out there as an expert, or not even an expert. I'm not an expert, you guys. I'm just.
Yeah, but that's even a head thought. I gotta be an expert. Right. That's a head thought. I gotta be, and this is what an expert looks like, and this is what I'm not a social media. I gotta be all these things, like all head thoughts, right?
Yeah. And I do. I get in my head about it because I think I've got to do it right, and I've got to do it this way, and I've got to be able to say this, or I need to nail my introduction, or I need to know how to word things correctly, and it's like, but I don't. I'm totally an imperfect person who I learned broadcast journalism to do a podcast perfectly. I have a sister who actually did, and her podcast is amazing because she nailed it,
Totally.
But I think I would get stuck in like, well, that's not me, and so I can't do that, versus realizing, no, I do want to love people, and I want people to love people, and I I feel like I've had a very happy life, not an easy life, but I'm happy. I know how to be happy.
You know how to choose.
I know how to choose to be happy, even or to be resilient, even when life isn't going well or my way. And I want people. I've tried to teach that to my kids, and I feel like they've learned that, and they're happy, good, strong, resilient kids. And I want any sphere of influence I have, I just want people to find that joy and happiness. Awesome. And so I guess it's enough to get me to say this stuff to you guys.
So here's what's cool. And is it okay if I kind of do a rapid fire summary of some of those thoughts? Yes. And let's do back and forth. So some of the thoughts from your heart. Here's what's cool. When you go to the head and get it all out, the heart just comes up. I didn't have to be like, now tell me the heart. You're like, I want to do this. I want to influence people. Yes. I've had the ability to choose. I want other people to choose. Like there's all these other thoughts that are there. That how does it feel when you have thoughts of, I could help somebody. I could do something that could impact someone. I could give someone the ability to choose. I want, what if someone felt worthy because I had the courage to step, like, how does that feel?
Those thoughts feel amazing. Yeah. Those are the thoughts that propel me into action. I act when I'm thinking that way.
Yeah.
And so, that's where I've got to get to when I do get stuck and when I do get in my head is I've got to get to where I'm like, okay, that feels like from my heart. This is why it's easy for me to remember this technique is because I can recognize that when I'm stuck and having the negative thoughts going in my head about this, but when I get in my heart, I want to serve. I want to love. I want to, be with my pretty sisters. I want to, I want you guys to feel my love and I want to share and I want to make a difference. And all of that feels like from my heart.
Totally.
I want to have an impact.
Yeah. And there's always this constant battle, head protect or progress, right? Mm-hmm. And so, first of all, thank you for being willing to share.
Oh my goodness. It's not easy.
It's not easy, right? But what was cool is you shared your emotion with us. And what's crazy about like our society, and I don't know if it's everywhere in the world, but at least where I live, the first thing when people show any emotion, the first thing we say is, oh, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. As if what you did was wrong, as if what you did shouldn't be done. That isn't that interesting? Like that is the culture norm. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's like, are you kidding? Thank you for sharing your heart. Thank you for being willing to open up so that we could feel what you're feeling, that we could connect with you. That the first thing, when you're crying, sharing emotion, the first thing you say, oh, hey, you are welcome, everybody. You don't even have to thank me. I know you appreciate, and if you don't, then that's your problem, right?
Well, I love that because the natural tendency is to feel embarrassed.
Right.
That I shared, embarrassed.
I felt some emotion. Right. Versus thank you.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Everybody. You're welcome, everybody. Love it. So thank you really for that. Because the truth is regardless of how good you're doing and how well, how quickly the podcast moves forward, all those things, the truth is this, that you are worthy. That's the truth. Period. The end. You don't earn it. It's not something you earn. It's your worth is not based on production, and your best is accepted. Period. The end. It hasn't changed when you were a little girl like Hazel. Her worth, is not up and down based on how many chores she does, or you are of worth. Like nobody looks at Hazel and be like, she's not that. Like she's like worthy.
Yeah.
Worthy. Brand new baby. See that. You feel that. And we lose that. So thank you for being willing to show us and have experience with you, because you're taking us along this process of saying, I can share my experience and feel worthy. And my best is accepted.
Well, and this is a wonderful time, I think, in my journey to do this with you. Because even hearing you say that in this setting, doing what I'm trying to do, that I'm just at the beginning of doing, feels good to be reminded that I'm worthy and that whether I mess this up or not, or say things perfectly or not, I'm trying, and that's good enough. My best is accepted.
Yeah.
That feels really good, you guys.
Yeah.
And because I know I'm going to make mistakes.
Here's a key word: willing.
Yeah.
You are willing, and the reason why you've done so well with Head to Heart is you're willing. Mm-hmm. It's you're willing to say, get present. Yeah. Am I willing to? The key to the commitments is this: it's not am I perfect at the commitments. Am I willing to be respectful, be my best, and be present. If I'm willing, I will progress. That's it. That's all that's required. Isn't that cool? Like the only thing that is required is my willingness to progress. Now, my willingness doesn't, what I always want is like, oh, but I'm willing. That means it's going to be successful. Or I'm willing, it means it's going to work out. No, it doesn't mean it's going to be all the things that I want it to be. But for me to feel worthy and accepted, if I'm willing, then it will.
And as long as we can take that willingness and progress with it, move forward, I believe that we can trust that the experiences we're going to have, we can always trust that they're going to work out for our good.
Yes.
Like you said, they may not always be the way we want them to be because we have limited perception and we have limited control, very limited. We only have control over ourselves, which is why we have to accept other people's best. We don't get to control them, not even our children.
Yes.
I've tried, or our husbands, we can't. But we can control ourselves and we can be willing and we can be, we can show up. And when things don't go your way, you just get to have the opportunity to learn and to grow and to receive whatever blessings of growth and strength that comes from that, which again is wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
That's what we're here to experience, in my opinion. Like we're here to have experiences where if we're willing to choose our conscience, we progress. When we don't, the painful feeling is saying, hey, choose this. That's it.
Yeah.
Like that's this experience. And sometimes it's really painful and there's a lot of painful emotions. Sometimes it's like, man, I'm feeling really good. But regardless, it's like, if I'm willing, that is the process. And that's what I get to experience. And I'm not scared of those painful emotions because I seek them now. I'm looking to go from my head to my heart. I'm looking to say, I want to go back and find out, why am I not doing something? I'm writing to feel the emotions. I want to bring up that time where I was rejected and told. I just actually on the way here was thinking about an experience I had where I really shared this message and I was really, won't go into details, but I really put myself out there and and then people were like, whoa, that was too much. And I shut down and I said, oh, I do not want anyone to ever think I'm too much or that. And I was just on the way here, even thinking of that, but I'm like, I need to work through that one more. I probably have not, I'm sure I have thought about, I need to really feel those emotions, feel all the pain as if it happened again, and then relive the experience as if I was from my heart.
Yeah. And then you can go back and reprogram yourself.
And then it's as if it happened from my heart. As if like, oh, wait, my head told me this and then I chose my heart, even though this happened forever ago.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, Pretty Sisters, if you're willing to go on this journey with us, we are so excited to offer this to you. This opportunity to you yourself to go through this process like what you've seen me do. And there's a lot more to it, more than we could give you in just this one conversation. In fact, there's at some point, if you choose, and we're going to share materials, printed materials with you. And if you want to get the book, the title of the book is
5 Habits to Lead from Your Heart, Johnny Covey.
Yes, you can get his book and you can start reading and begin to learn the process through that method. But he is going to coach. He's going to coach us for 6 weeks.
You might feel some emotions.
You're gonna get ready to feel some emotions. I've done this with him before in a coaching setting.
Yeah,
I can't believe he's offered to do this with us as we launch Pretty Sisters, but he has. And so I hope that you are as excited as I am and ready to have some transformation. Ready to do this Pretty Sister makeover, ready to feel worthy, to feel loved, feel accepted. Learn these tools for yourself so that it will empower you to be more joyful and happy, and also to give you the tools to help those around you. It's impactful as you have these skill sets to help your family. I want this for you. So please join with us. Before we end, I just have to say, do you have any final thoughts? Anything that's come to you that you want to share with our audience?
Yes, final thought. This is I want you to ideally be looking into I need to maybe lean up,
look
into my eyes. But no, really, but to look in my eyes and I want to tell you some truth, which is this: you are worthy. Period. The end. It's not something you have to earn. It's not something that is evading you. That is not you. It's that person. It's that you are of worth. It's your birthright. And just because you haven't been experiencing that doesn't mean that it's not the truth. The fact of the matter that when you feel that painful emotion, it is at when you have thoughts are unhealthy, that painful emotion is saying that you are worthy. It's saying you are worthy of more. This painful thing that happened to you, that this horrible thing that happened to you forever ago, that experience, it's painful because it's not for you, because you are of worth. When I drink that milk, my body spits it out and says, no, this is not for me, because my body is worthy of, it's of worth. It's valuable. You are of worth. Period. The end. And your best, whatever that is right now, it might be terrible. It is accepted. If you accept your best right now and start to be respectful to yourself, you will feel worthy and accepted. And I want that for you, because that's the truth. And it's okay if you don't feel that. Nothing is wrong with you if that's what your experience is not right now. Nothing is wrong with you. You're not broken. It means you're human. It means you're one of us. And I'm just so grateful for you, Callie, to say, like, let's do something together. Let's do something to give these pretty sisters this ability to understand and choose their experience. And because as we go through this process with you, we're going to learn and grow too. It's not this one way thing. It's not like we're just going to deliver some info to you. No, we're going through the process. We're experiencing, as you share your head to heart experience, it helps me go from my head to my heart. It helps me progress. It helps me understand someone in my life. I'm like, hey, she reminds me of this other person in my life who I'm not accepting. I'm in my head about. And you know what? This person right in front of me who's sharing their experience, they're worthy. They're accepted. Okay. I need to show more grace. I need to connect with this other person, show them that they're worthy accepted. So you're awesome.
I love it. Thank you so much, Johnny. This has been amazing.
Yeah, I loved it.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate that final thought, that knowledge. Didn't that just feel good when you said you are worthy?
I felt it. I felt it. Because it's true. It's true. I didn't even see you, but I'm like, yes, you are worthy.
Yes, I absolutely felt it too. I got chills. I felt it because I think you're speaking truth. And you're speaking truth to me, to you. We want you to know that you are loved, you are worthy, you are good enough, and you're pretty. So stay pretty. We'll talk to you again next week, and the invitation to join us for more is coming your way. And I hope that you will be willing to take the opportunity and grow in this love of yourself, and allow this feeling of worthiness to just infiltrate you just completely, as it has for me. So thank you so much, Johnny. Thanks, appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
And again, we'll talk to you next week, and stay pretty.